whatever that was. What was that? You know, back in the day, when Moses was up on that hill talking to the burning bush, he said, the burning bush said, "You can ask any question." And Moses basically kind of said, "So, who are you? What's your name?" That was the question. And in the Bible and in Western mythology, the answer was, "I am who I am," right? Kind of like Popeye, you know? And, you know, and from that we got. Trying to die, crying is okay. So, you know, what do we say? We say good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland. I am your Sensei, Bob, and don't believe a word I say, right? So there's Moses up on the hill talking to the burning bush, and basically he was given, you can answer, I'll answer any question. You know, so what's your name? You know, and in the Bible and in Western mythology comes out, "I am who I am." You know, Popeye, right? Hey, it's like it just happened. It just was said. It must mean something. It's you know, I'm being told to by God. Anyway, so what did God really say? First of all, God is an irrelevant name. Right? It's like, it's a gob. God is gob. But what did the burning bush say? The physical representation of love's co-creation at that moment. He said, it said, she said, "I'm a work in progress." And Moses said, "What does that mean?" And basically, the burning bush said, "Well, all of your brethren, all of humanity, all of your relations are all part of me, you know? And so as you grow, as you mature, so do I. So it's the we and me, you know? And your life isn't all about you, you know? It's not about how famous you are or how much money you got or you got the big house, you know? Happiness comes from inside your heart. Happiness comes when you are in communication, when you feel that fire of the Creator's passion through love's co-creation, and that's when you're passionate about, you know, what you do, what your life is, you know. So I live out in the middle of the woods, middle of nowhere, right? And I don't see anybody. I mean, I'm so far away. There is no light at night. The only light is the light coming from the stars. And I have lights, but I don't have to turn them on. You know, I'm not scared of the dark. I enjoy the dark. And a lot of people who come up, it's so dark that they're like, oh. But if you let your eyes adjust to that darkness, you'll see the light, right? And that's why we have the dark. We have the yin yang symbol. You know, that little circle is the event horizon that we are kept in. Our scientists are just starting to eke out that out there's this thing called dark matter. And like 98% of the universe is made of that. We can't see it because our senses are so, you know, first of all, useless, and the other, we are deluded by our beliefs, like here on Earth one day, and it will stay and stay and stay and stay. Do you really want to stay? Do you want to be stuck? Do you want to be in the tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow? That's Hamlet's tale. You know, he was a rich kid with too much time on his hands. He let his ghost of his father give him the wrong 411, so he kills everyone. Then he's left all alone. Everyone he loved, he's killed. His mother and everybody else. So, his buddy is like, "Oh wow, we won!" Blah blah blah. And why are you so upset? Why are you so down? You should be celebrating. Well, Hamlet was always a pretty dark guy, and and he was pretty much like this. Always looking for something to put into place of love's co-creation in his heart. And that's what we're here to do, right? And that's what I'm here. There's a guy named John Butler, I think, English guy, Scottish guy. Let's see. Nope, that's not it. Mm. Whoops. Yeah, screw it. I was going to bring you some photos and give you a photo tour, but I forgot to put them in the car. And I have all these books of the art world of New York City, the art world of Australia, the art world of Europe between 1969 and 2000. And of all the different things I did, places I was, because my photography, I was an anthropologist, so my photography was more or less documentation. And then in 1975, no, I guess it was 76, end of 76, I was in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, was on the J train going over the Williamsburg Bridge, and everybody on that train was either Hasidic, Hispanic, or black, and not your average white guy. We're no average white guy. That was it, and I'm not an average white guy. And there was this little beautiful woman in a peacoat that went down to her ankles, and she was taking pictures. I could tell she was taking pictures, but on the down low, she had a camera under her coat, and she dropped her lens cap, and it said Canon. And now I had a Leica body, but I had Canon lenses because Leica lenses were too freaking expensive, and I, basically, picked up the lens cap, went over to her, tapped her on her picture, and I said, "You have a Leica, don't you?" And she had it under her coat, and I had this lens cap that said Canon. It was like the secret handshake because no one could afford Leica lenses, so you could go to Willoughby's and buy Canon lenses because the Japanese were knocking off the Leicas, and you'd buy a Leica body for $200 or $300, and you get Canon lenses, and you'd have a Leica. Anyway, so you a photographer? I said, "Oh yeah." Anyway, so we talked, and we went over the Williamsburg Bridge, and I get off the first exit, Marcy Avenue, and door opens, and I get off, and she's standing there, and she's thinking, and bing bong, the door's going to close any second, and she jumps off, and I said, "Oh, you live in my neighborhood?" She goes, "Well, close. I'm in the next exit, but it's a nice day. I'll walk. So we go downstairs. We work on Broadway, and I'm going to Marcy Avenue and towards Bedford, and she, where do And I had told her where I lived because when we were on the train, I pointed at that building. She said, "You live in that place? There's a flying saucer on the roof." I said, "Yeah, I know. That's my art." And what I did was this gigantic factory building. I was the only guy in it, and I took all of the fluorescent lights that they had taken down and thrown in a pile, and I wrapped them around the building, and I sequenced them. So the right, and that's my art. I did a lot of that all over New York. Mystery illuminations. That's what I was, had on my um, art party ringleader. Mystery illuminations, and I said, well, that's where I live. I live on the top floor. And I said, if you ever want to come over, just come over, to Bedford, and when Bedford and Marcy come together, that's where that street that I live on, and it's a big open during the day, a big open elevator, black hole, doorbell, hit the doorbell, and Kirby, the super, will come. Kirby was a gigantic black man, and so he came up. Anyway, so I said, just hit that and said, hey, go find Al. And so she went her way, and I, at this meeting of the things, I said, so maybe I'll come visit. So I go back home, there's Kirby smoking a cig, and he takes me up to my floor, and I go to my loft, and I had a 17,000 square foot loft with 40-foot ceilings, and I paid $75 a month, and heat and electricity were included in 1976. I come from my place down on Pearl Street in Wall Street area, down in the Battery, and so and I had this great window that I could see from the Statue of Liberty to the 59th Street Bridge and all of Manhattan. I had an amazing view, and I had built a little platform, and I had this great desk, and and everything in that place I found in that loft. I didn't go even down to the street to look for garbage. It was all over the building, and like my kitchen, I made my kitchen out of sewing machine tables, right? And they're all butcher block, right? So, like 1920s kind of so industrial sewing machines. Anyway, so I had an amazing loft, and I shared it with my friend John, who I've had a lot of Johns. John C. And he and I went to seminary together. And he's like a saint, right? And he had, he was so saintly. He was like me. We both got kicked out of the churchy school. I mean, he was a good boy. I mean, I was a revolutionary. I was trying to change the Catholic Church. He was just trying to, get to be a cardinal and then change from that point. But he was still too good, right? And so they got rid of him. And he went on to, he was a real scholar, right? And I was an esoteric scholar. He was a scholar. Anyway, so he had gotten into NYU's anthropology department, and so he had no money to live. And so, he got a hold of me and said, I need a place to live. I said, I got this new loft in Brooklyn, and you help me fix it up, and you pay a few of the bills. And so, because, in Soho at that time, when I lived in Soho, from 1970 on until about 75, when I came back from Ireland the third time, and I got this loft down in Pearl Street. So anyway, and before that, I had a loft right on underneath the FDR Drive, right across the street from the South Street Fish Market and Fulton Fish Market, and in an old warehouse, like back in the day, from the 1810s, right? And it was a warehouse that a guy I knew And I was taking care of a couple of his buildings, and I said, "Hey, what about that building?" And he goes, "Oh, it's just a junk house." He says, "We want to make your art. It's got a big spaces, so we want to make your art in there. It's going to be cold. It's right off the East River, and the wind blows in wintertime. And there's no gas, no electricity, no water, no nothing. It's just a big space, and the roof is pretty good, so it's somewhat dry." And so I kind of went in there, and I all of the utilities were there. They just weren't turned on, so I just turned them on. And Kiki Smith, go look up Kiki Smith. She needed a place to stay, so she was staying with me. So she and I were in there, and it was like being in a wind tunnel. So summer and spring and fall was quite nice. Winter. So I was on Pearl Street. I was in the old Edison first power station that Mr. Morgan paid for, and then I had the bats in the belfry, the top floor, which were really, it was like a 60-foot. The roofs were all like this, and that's where all these big wheels. I had the big steam engine downstairs, and anyway, so um, I sold that to one of the desperate lawyers on Wall Street guys who I was working on as a healer. And he said, "This is so cool. How much?" I said, "Well, what do you think it's worth?" He said, "To me, it's worth 40 grand." I said, "Okay, that's fair. Here's the key." And that was like what was known as a key fee. And I said, "Here is the real estate guy, and I will call him up. And what would you pay for rent?" And he said, 5,000 a month. I said, "No, no, no. How about 800?" I said, "Oh, that's amazing." Well, Jane, that is Jordan. Jordan, that is the magic of prayer. Is that you can change reality by doing exactly what you're talking about. That's what I do when I go to sleep. I visualize, like I'm in pain all the time. I have all these diseases, and if I had to pay what the doctors want me to, I can't afford any of that. So I live out in the woods, and I meditate, and burdock, and there are certain funguses that I'm like a mushroom. I live in a rainforest, so there are all these funguses, and I've done my homework, and a number of them are very good at reducing inflammation, and that's kind of what arthritis is, right? And my charcoal leg, same thing, and my neuropathy, same thing. So they aren't like pharmaceutical drugs that hit it with a hammer. It kind of just eases it. And then with prayer, like right now, my back is like killing me, but I straighten it out. It works. And so I'm alive, and I'm mobile. And you know, most people who had like my brother, he's had 14 major surgeries. Like he had both his knees replaced, meaning they cut the lower part of his leg off, put it over on a bunch of ice, like you know, uh, a shrimp cocktail, and put a mechanical knee in there, and then stuck his leg back on. And those procedures were invented for soldiers who get themselves blown up, not for a guy who is 200 pounds overweight, and that weight is destroying his knees, his hips, and his back, and his everything. Well, that was me. I was 250 pounds overweight when I worked for the Desperate Warriors, and I, you know, basically lost the weight, and therefore the stress on my joints went. But the damage was done. And so instead of taking the drugs, because I couldn't afford $3,000 a month, and that's don't you have insurance? Your copay will. It took me a long time to, navigate myself into programs where I found the right drug that weren't that expensive, but took care of me, and I could instead of take them just once in a while, and so I'm good. And so at any time, my endocrinologist, I have diabetic eyes, so I had this procedure done. And because I can't afford $3,000 every time that procedure is done, they put me on a guinea pig. They test things out, and that's fine, you know, because the guy who's my doctor invented the procedure, and that's the guy you want as your doctor. And so he said, I'm going to put you in this program. And by doing that, every 6 months, I get a full everything, you know, blood scan, you name it, right? So I have my own endocrinologist. And his joke is, boy, you're the healthiest dead guy I know because I've got all this stuff going on in me. That's on the 28th, I'm having close the same surgery to remove.
In the bathroom, people's wash hand signs, even put, yeah, sure. He said they want me to put on wash hand signs for people in the bathroom.
Anyway, so where were we? We were, where were we? We were,
Bitcoin, the best money we've ever had. With a different kind of money comes a different kind of card. Crypto.
Warm me up here, if you would.
Powered by crypto. Reserve yours now.
I'll just do this.
That works.
That'll work.
Today is when we pray to Jesus Christ, amen. Oh, wait, today is when we pray to Jesus Christ, amen. Oh, wait, today is when we pray.
Yeah, this guy who sings the song, he doesn't realize that his commercial, his monetization for Bitcoin, it's the same guys who Jesus threw out of the temple. Oh. You're the best. Thank you, sweetheart. So let's see your palm. Is that your palm yet?
No.
Here, put it up like this. Well, you're an interesting person. You never do anything the same way twice.
If that's not true, I don't know what is.
And you're honest, but you don't spill the beans. People don't have a clue who you are. I mean, everyone looks at you and just makes an assumption, right?
Huh.
And they're not, you're interested in reading, you're interested in art, you're interested in a lot of things. You're not interested in the stuff that most people your age would,
I get that a lot.
You
That's
get that a lot.
crazy.
Yes. Let's see. That was just at a glance. Let's see what else can we tell you. So you have a lot of vivid dreams, big time dreams.
I do.
And when you have those dreams, you wake up and go, and they're really vivid, and you go, wow, what was that about? But as soon as your face hits the floor, it's gone.
I forget it.
Yep. So what you need to do is have this magic box by your thing. And you know how you can record your voice on it?
Yeah.
Before you get out of bed, you hit the record and you go, wow, I just had this dream about blah, 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 right?
Uh-huh.
Back in the day when I was a shrink, you'd say, so how do you feel, right?
Yeah.
And you wouldn't hand them a pad. You would be the recorder, and they would just be on the couch, and they would go on, right?
Yeah.
And write it down. So now, instead of spending too much money on a stupid shrink, you have this.
Fun.
Then you go back and listen to it, right? And now you can stop it, and you go forward and back, right?
Yeah.
So you're listening to it. Oh, that's interesting. Pause. And you write it down. And people, you should write your dreams down. Well, you can't, but you can write them. You can speak them straight into this gizmo, then write them down. Because when you were at school and you heard the teacher stuff and you said it and you wrote it down, wasn't to remember. It was to understand. In German, there's a word called Gestalt, lightning understanding. So listen to it, you write it down, and you go, wow, that's what this dream means.
I'll have to try that.
So instead of having some stupid shrink tell you what your dreams mean, you are your best shrink.
I'll have to try that.
Okay, let's see this side of your hand.
This side?
Yeah, let's see. Well, you're way smarter than most people give you credit for.
That's true.
And your best attribute is, we have a couple, but you're very empathetic. You have experienced enough emotional dynamics that you can identify when you see someone suffering.
is crazy. You're blowing my mind right now. That is crazy.
Well, I've done it 50 years and I've had some amazing teachers.
Really?
So the other really great thing you're good at is getting at it. You don't like before you go do this and then you go smoke a cigarette before you do it. You just go to it.
Yeah.
And then it's done and then you can go smoke the cigarette, right?
Yeah.
Right? So you don't smoke.
No.
What other good, one little thing you do is you don't worry a lot, but you do worry.
Yeah.
And it's like an almost unconscious worrying until the worry gets like a boiling pot gets to the point where you're aware of it.
Yeah.
How you can stop that? First of all, it does no good. It's a useless thing. It gets in your way, right?
Yeah.
What you allow to happen is you don't have a good 360. You don't see it coming. People get in your grill, push your buttons.
Yeah.
And that is the flame that boils in the pot.
Yeah.
I hate to do it to you. Can you turn your internet off for just a second?
Oh, sure.
I'm trying to-
Yep, no problem. I
You're
can,
testing something for a second.
no
I said,
problemo.
we're showing that there's more than a computer on our test tape.